Welcome once again to SoCo Chat, a podcast where we hear directly from county leaders, discuss the latest news, and talk about all things concerning our beautiful corner of California known as Sonoma County.
Welcome to SoCo Chat. I'm Matt Brown, Deputy Communications Manager for the County of Sonoma. Thank you so much for joining us. Today, we're talking about homelessness. It's an issue that is unfortunately prevalent in Sonoma County. Fortunately, though, there is a lot of support for homeless individuals, including the Lived Experience Advisory and Planning Board, or LEAP. The board is comprised of diverse people with lived experience of homelessness, with an emphasis on racial and ethnic diversity. The purpose of the LEAP board is to advise Sonoma County on homeless-related programs, policies, and how to spend money targeted for homeless services. Here to talk about all of this is the chair of the LEAP board, Rebekah Sammet. But before we get to our interview, here's our trivia question for the week. The 2025 point-in-time count showed a 23% decrease in Sonoma County's homeless population. It's the lowest number since the count began in 2007. So to the nearest 100, how many homeless individuals were counted in the 2025 pit count? If you know the answer, call us at 707-565-2242 or email us at publicaffairs@sonoma-county.org. If you are correct, you'll be entered into our drawing to win a SoCo Chat coffee mug. So with that, let's get on to our discussion. Rebekah, thank you for being here.
Thank you so much, Matt, for having me.
Well, great. Well, we appreciate it. Just to start off, can you tell us a little bit about the Sonoma County LEAP Board, what its mission is, particularly how you're aiming to bring voices of those with lived experience to the forefront?
Thank you for bringing me into the studio to get the word out about the LEAP board and our survey. I am completely humbled to be in leadership for uplifting lived experience voices in the system of care. To answer the question you asked, the LEAP board is accomplishing the goal of bringing voices of lived experience into places of great impact in order to improve homeless services in a few different ways. Meeting as a board every other week is establishing a foundation for this work. We're building relationships with each other and becoming increasingly empowered together. We have 14 board seats with members from all corners of Sonoma County, and we're able to hold in-depth conversations and initiatives that impact our unsheltered community. We have members of lived experience that sit on the Homeless Coalition Board, which is the board responsible for administering continuum of care funding. This ensures we are in real-time conversations about homeless services and those that it serves. We are consulted for our expertise by the Department of Health Homeless Services Division, and we have members with lived experience on every subcommittee and nearly all ad hocs associated with the Homeless Coalition. The next part of our mission is to enhance our system of care, is to connect our members with other members of lived experience boards across the nation to gather more best practices and share our successes so we can further exchange those wisdom and knowledge.
Well, great. I understand that the LEAP board has launched a survey. It's a shelter standard survey of residents and shelter staff. What gaps of information or what kind of feedback are you looking to address in these surveys?
Yeah, we have launched a survey, and we're just trying our hand at collecting that data from the personal experience of lived experience community members, the way that we ask the questions, what we're asking, and just being a body of people with lived experience, I think will generate different answers than we've ever gotten. I don't know of any other surveys that have been taken that ask these type of questions. And we're hoping that it sheds some light on the reasons people might be refusing shelter. And we're hoping between asking shelter guests and staff related questions related to their experience that we'll be able to make recommendations directly to shelters for improving services and maybe giving them an update on what we find on why their services might be underutilized, although the shelters are like at capacity. So we're just seeing what we can find to see what recommendations we can find.
What sort of questions are you asking in these surveys?
We're asking about living conditions. We're asking about the amount of time that staff has to relay all the information that they need to. We're asking about intake process, how long it takes from the time their name gets to the top of the list to the time that they get a bed. We're asking about how safe people feel, how safe they are, reasons why they've had to leave, if they've timed out or gotten housing.
So there's separate surveys for residents and for the staff of
Correct.
shelters. Yeah. Okay. Interesting. So how will you the data that you collect from these surveys, how will that directly inform the policy and practices of the Sonoma County's homelessness response? And what's an example of some sort of change that you'd like to see coming out of this?
So with the data that we collect, we will be able to aggregate or strip all of the personal information and have only trends. And shelters will be able to get a report from us. And if they don't want to get a report directly from us, the same data will be used during the shelter standards update, which is a document of policies that all shelters who use continuum of care funding are obligated to follow. And this is a document that is updated regularly. I don't think it's been updated in a few years, and so it will be being updated soon. And we know that the LEAP board will be advising on this update. So the data will not only be available directly to shelters, but also will be used to inform us to create or update those standards.
Yeah. Well, I know that you'll probably identify many challenges in these surveys, but beyond that, how will you use these surveys to ensure that the shelters are being utilized? And I know you said they're near capacity, but we want to make sure that the shelters are being utilized equitably and utilized by everybody who needs them. So how will you use these results from the survey for that?
I think it really depends on what the results say. It's hard to predict something like that when we don't have the answers yet. But one of our points of recommendation or our advocacy, our consultation, can be around direct funding. So during funding evaluation and funding prioritization is we can take some of the data from this and add it as a priority for funding.
So what has been the response so far from the unhoused community to these surveys?
We've had really great support. We have nearly 30 surveys already come in from guest surveys and nearly a dozen from staff. I will say some of the surveys are coming back incomplete. There is the ability to skip questions, which I think we're going to keep that ability. However, I want to encourage people who take the survey to please answer all the questions, as many as you can. And I don't think I have to mention to answer honestly. I will emphasize a little bit again. However, it seems that the surveys are coming back with really genuine answers. So that's a really positive thing.
So the more complete and the more genuine the answers, the better the data is for you.
Yes, absolutely.
Great. If someone wants to help with this initiative, if they're listening in right now and they want to help you out, what can they do?
Just sharing the survey. We don't have it up on a website right now. The LEAP board does not have a web page live yet. However, we do have flyers. We have email invitation for the survey. We're putting up flyers all over town. People can email our public-facing email at sonomacountyleap@gmail.com.
Okay, great. Say that email address again.
sonomacountyleap@gmail.com.
Okay, great. And so once the survey data is collected and analyzed, what are the next steps for your board, for the LEAP board?
We're going to compile reports for the service providers, and we're going to put together recommendations as an overall report of what we found and make our recommendations to the Homeless Coalition Board and the other subcommittees that are dealing with policy and funding recommendations.
Sure. So what's the ultimate vision then for the what the shelter community looks like in Sonoma County? What kind of shelter services do you hope will come out of all of this?
Yeah. We've found through our own board members' lived experiences, previous board members' lived experience, as well as talking to people who are not on our board, who are out there utilizing services, And we have heard of quite a bit of adverse experiences. And before we take those word of mouth stories and experiences and try to create policy from them, is we want to collect this data so that we have this from as many people as possible and see what the trends are. Some people's negative experiences might not be everybody's experience. So we want to hear the good and the bad. We want to know what is working well so we can enhance that or preserve that service, and also really address what isn't being talked about in our board meetings. When providers talk about their program, it always sounds really nice and that they're doing a great job, and I'm sure for the most part they are. However, the surveys are showing that there's some improvement that can be made.
Sure. Yeah. Is there anything else that you wanted to add about the survey, about the board, about anything that you'd want to bring up?
One thing that I did want to mention is possibly having a third party to help handle grievances. Currently, shelters handle their own grievances. If there is an exit and the person feels that it was unjust, they have no one to turn to mediate and to go through a grievance process. It's all within house. And between the providers, all of their grievance processes are different. So one of the things the LEAP board has been talking about is possibly finding a third party process and making a universal grievance standard so that people don't have to go back to the shelter where they were potentially mistreated or misunderstood, had a hard time, and going back there on their own to go through that process alone. So we want to see if it might be possible to start a third party mediation for grievance and shelters, and maybe give people opportunities to get back into the shelter they were exited from, or find another pathway to have shelter when they desperately need it.
Yeah. Well, that would certainly enhance the system of homeless services, and I'm sure your board's working on that and many other things. So we appreciate you being here, Rebekah, and talking to us about the LEAP board and everything that you're doing. Thanks for this work.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, and as a thank you, we'd like to offer you a SoCo Chat coffee mug or a water bottle or anything else we have here. And to our listeners, we'd also like to give you a chance to win a SoCo Chat coffee mug. All you have to do is correctly answer today's trivia question. Our question is this: to the nearest 100, how many homeless individuals were counted in the 2025 Sonoma County point-in-time count? If you know the answer, call us at 707-565-2242 or email us at publicaffairs@sonoma-county.org. Also, if you have comments about this or any other segment or have a suggestion for a topic for a future SoCo Chat discussion, please email us at that same address, publicaffairs@sonoma-county.org. Thank you all, and we hope you continue to follow SoCo Chat on Spotify, Apple Music, Amazon, and of course, YouTube. Thanks again, Rebekah.
Thank you so much.